is everything you're gonna need as far as to take out your old rotor and your actual brake pads. First, you need something to compress the actual piston itself. That's what I use. Whatever your lug nuts are, mine happens to be on a special wheel lock key, and whatever driver you prefer. I like to take them off with my impact gun. This is one of my smaller ones. It's lighter, but it definitely does the job. Then you need a torque wrench. Anyone does it. For this one, it's 76 foot-pounds. You do need a rubberized grease if you want to lube up your guide pins, any anti-seize for the actual back of the rotors, and also on the side of the pad that rides the actual caliper itself. I use this with a 1/2 inch, and that's just because if your rotors, and you've done a couple rotors in your life, you get a bolt like that and you pop them out, so you don't use a hammer at all. You just use that with a 1/2 inch, drive that forward all the way in your rotor, and that pops out your rotor. For your brake pads, any regular screwdriver. For me, I like to use my favorite tool, which is the mini pry bar. That does everything. If you still want to measure them, you definitely need a gauge, and to hang up the rotors you need some kind of wire. I like these hangers by Matco. They're awesome. Any brake cleaner would help. A jack stand, a jack, a magnetic tray, and some wire brushes. And I like to use my 3/8 drive. It's awesome, but I definitely love the convenience of it being the straight angle here, and any kind of ratchet. I use my 3/8 drive. On the magnetic tray, we have a 14mm and we have a 17, and that's it. So these are my brake pads. These are Brake Best Select Premium, and I'm gonna pair them up with these Import Direct, and these are OE replacement parts. I'll be replacing these old brake pads and my old rotors with these ones, and I'm gonna walk you guys through the process of replacing them and installing them. Caliper sits here and it compresses back and forth. It's going to be this bolt here and this one here. Sometimes I like using this. Sometimes I like using this guy on a 14. Today I'm going to be using this guy on a 14. You got your 2 little bolts here. Put them off to the side. So as far as this portion here of the caliper, I like to put it on the hook, and it comes right there on my spring, and then you just tuck it off to the side. The piston here, you definitely have to collapse it. Now this set of pliers, all I'm going to do is push on that, and I'll show you how to put these in there. These are awesome pliers. Push on the back here, press on it, and it compresses it. So they're really cool and really easy to use. Just like the other one, you got the 17, these 2 bolts here, this one and this one. I like to put these and leave them on just like that. Pad is completely gone on this side. It's a good thing that I was taking it off. It's way gone. But this side is not all the way gone. When we remove the guide pins themselves, they're pretty dirty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off all this grease that is really dirty. I'm going to grease it up with new grease, and I'm going to put it in and take it out a couple times with the newer grease, and the grease is going to mix up with the other one. Just make sure you clean it and then put it in there. The last thing you want to do is pack it in really tight with nice brand new grease. Definitely will lube this up. I like using the Toyota rubber grease. A little bit extra. Slap it in there and send it. So when you pull back on them, %, before putting any parts in, you always want to flip the older part and put it in backwards, just like that, so you can see if they fit or not. Another thing, you have these, definitely you want to put some lube on the back here. I'm gonna give it a couple dabs. And I've seen some people and they really go crazy over this, so it should be enough. Let me slap it on just like that. This is where the brake pad rides, so definitely, you definitely want to clean this out here, this section here, here, and then put in your new hardware. Pads like down like this, and then push down on them from this section here. It's gonna clip. Okay, once you have them on there and your guide pins are lubed, it's good to go. Put these guys in between. You press like that. All it is pumping it. One hand. Hit it again. Piston goes in. Just like that. And you push the piston inside. This gap opens. Your pads are thicker. Just gonna ride on that. Make sure to check out your brake reservoir, because that fluid is gonna go back in to the reservoir when you compress the pistons. If you don't have it open or drain out the actual fluid, that fluid is gonna spill over. So make sure you drain that fluid every time you compress a piston. Bring the screw here and here, allows you to pop these out. Most people would use a hammer to beat the rotor themselves so they can pop out. Generally, when the rotors stick, there's not anti-seize behind the rotor, or it's not cleaned up, so the rust actually is caked up there behind the rotor itself, so it's really hard to take it out. What I use, instead of beating a hammer, I use a screw, and I work my way from the bottom to the top, and I do that so the rotors can pop out. These definitely are shredded. There's a, yeah, this thing is just baked in there. It's falling apart. Installing one lug nut allows the rotor to stay still while you pull in your caliper and your new brake pads. Unhang the compressed caliper and install it using your two 14mm bolts. It's my new brake pads and rotors. Most definitely this caliper is going to get replaced. It's a bad caliper here, but I would have known if I didn't do the actual brake pads themselves, and I paid attention to the actual boot. But yeah, these look super nice.